Good evening. This is the Community Development and Urban Planning Committee. The meeting is now called to order. This is the meeting for June 23rd, 2025. I am the chair, Council Member at Large, Maria Cabrera. At this time, I will call the roll for those members of the committee first. Shanae Darby, Vice Chair. Nathan Field.
Present.
Alexander Hackett. Yolanda McCoy.
Here.
Kobe Owens. Christian Willauer. President Ernest Trippy Congo. Okay, since we do have a quorum with 3 members, we're going to proceed with the first agenda item. As a friendly reminder, only the members of the committee should be making motions and seconding. And if there's anyone here for public comment, we have to adhere to the items that are on the agenda this evening to make public comment. I understand that we are not going to have online public comment. There is something wrong with the system, so we cannot take virtual public comment this evening. Okay, at this time, we're going to start with the first agenda item, and that is a resolution authorizing the mayor to file a third substantial amendment to the city fiscal year 2025, federal fiscal year 2024 annual action plan with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. I am the sponsor of this legislation, and I will have Mr. Robert Weir, who is here from the administration, to speak on this. And we acknowledge the council member Darby, vice chair of the committee, is present.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Madam Vice Chair. I am here to speak to the resolution that would authorize our mayor to file a third substantial amendment. It's pretty straightforward in as much that when the city submits their budget to HUD and there is a change that is significant, then we need to go to not only through the public process of notifying the public, but we also need to have city council approve it. This resolution basically takes $300,000 of CDBG funds. They were programmed for the Jumpstart program. The issue there was that there was a couple properties that were offered to Jumpstart, and when we went and started really looking at the properties, they were beyond repair. And so we've identified that property as 817 West 4th Street, and we are going to proceed to take that property down. Also, there is a technical piece here where there is a West Tatnall project that we had invested home funds in. They want to change the addresses of those. It's still on Tatnall Street. It still would give us between 8 and 15 affordable apartments in that complex. It's just that the actual addresses have changed. So to make sure that we're not varying from HUD's requirements, we're going to add that to the addendum.
Okay, it sounds pretty self-explanatory there. All right, since this is a resolution, this is not an item that we need to vote on, and this will be heard at the next city council meeting on July 3rd. The next item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing the mayor to file with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development the following plans regarding funding for the Community Development Block Grant Program, the Home Improvement Investment Partnerships Program, the Emergency Solutions Grant Program, and the Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS Program. The city fiscal year 2026 through 2030, federal fiscal year 2025 through 2029 consolidated plan. The city fiscal year 2026, federal fiscal year 2025 annual action plan, and the city participation plan for the city. If you can go ahead, Mr. Weir, and speak to that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a brief opening statement as far as just bringing everyone that's here up to speed on the consolidated plan, our annual action plan. I also have a PowerPoint that we can go through after the statement. As far as the Department of Housing and Urban Development has distributed money for the city of Wilmington to receive for affordable housing and community development initiatives benefiting primarily low and moderate income persons. This plan really consolidates into a single document the planning and application requirements for the Community Development Block Grant Program. We need to prepare this for HUD, and we need to submit that somewhere 3 to 5 years. The City of Wilmington has been doing it every 5 years, and this is our fifth-year plan. That will cover fiscal years 2025 through 29. The purpose of the city's consolidated plan is to assess the city's affordable housing and community development needs, analyze the city's housing markets, articulate the city's priorities, goals, and strategies to address identified needs, and describe the actions the city will take to implement these strategies. The consolidated plan consists of 3 major sections: housing and community development needs assessment, housing marketing assessment, and a strategic plan which identifies how we'll address those needs. We had a series of public meetings, of Zoom meetings. We worked with the county to make sure that we were not going to have any duplication of effort. But there were 4 major areas that we identified from public input. I don't think any of these are going to come as a surprise to anyone, but we now have these documented, and we'll have strategies to address each of these. So under affordable housing, we all know that new construction is expensive and time-consuming, making it inaccessible to many Wilmington residents and difficult for developers. There is a need to rehabilitate vacant and dilapidated properties in the city and bring them up to code. However, stakeholders report that this is difficult to get done on these properties due to red tape and permitting. And these are all comments from the public. There is a lack of workforce housing for workers like teachers, daycare workers, and police cadets. HUD's fair market rent may be too low. We're working with the Delaware State Housing Association, and they would be willing to offer more if they could alleviate some of the housing problems from vulnerable populations. When we talk about those vulnerable populations, there was a number of comments about homelessness and special needs services. Populations emphasized by stakeholders that are most commonly at risk for homelessness include youths aging out of the foster care system, young adults, unaccompanied youth, youth parents and families, justice-involved individuals, survivors of domestic violence, the elderly, and persons with HIV/AIDS. The challenges that these populations commonly face include the poor credit history, criminal records, lack of work-life balance due to lack of child care services and after-school programs, and accessible health care. However, there are limited resources available that are expected to be further constrained, with homelessness being on the rise in Wilmington and the wide number of supportive services required for those specific populations. One of the other areas that we received a good amount of feedback was workforce development. The lack of education, training, and qualifications are major barriers for many of the identified populations that are at risk for homelessness. So these are combined 1-2 punches for a lot of our citizens. This also includes acquiring a driver's license. High barrier groups include youth and justice-involved individuals due to the lack of training, experience, and criminal history. Partnering with institutions and agencies that can provide professional growth and are open to working with high barrier groups would be helpful to eliminate the challenges that they face. There is a need for digital literacy programs for senior citizens as finding and connecting them to resources becomes increasingly more digitized. Talked about the improvement of public infrastructure. I think everyone could agree that there's a need for healthier neighborhoods. While many residents consider Wilmington relatively walkable, there's a need for better roads, sidewalks, and access to grocery stores. Areas in need of these public infrastructure improvements include pretty much the entire city, but highlighting Riverside, East Side, and the West Side. There was also mentioned a need for improved sanitation and recycling in our community. The most significant housing issues identified was cost burden, defined as spending between 30% and 50% of household income on housing costs such as mortgage or rent, and the severe cost burden defined as households spending more than 50% of their income on housing costs. According to our comprehensive housing affordability strategy, we call it CAS, C-H-A-S data, 39% of households in the city are cost burdened, particularly households with incomes between 30% and 80% area median income. An even higher proportion of Wilmington households are severely cost burdened, and that's consisting of 20% of households, particularly households between 0 and 50% AMI. To address these identified housing needs, the city has established the following goals and outcomes to achieve through the investment of the CDBG, the home, the ESG, and the HOPWA resources in our first year. Please note that while these goals are consolidated, for simplicity's sake, they still remain represented. Right now, we're looking at this budget that will be presented that we think that over 5,000 people can benefit from this investment, the federal investment in the city. And that, of course, would take place. We have to pay for the planning and administration of that. So it's basically salaries for real estate and housing department. Provide public services, improve public facilities and infrastructure, increase access, supply, and quality of housing, rental unit rehabilitation, homeowner housing added, homeowner housing rehabilitated, direct financial assistance to home buyers, provide housing services to homeless and at risk through tenant-based rental assistance, that's rapid rehousing included, homeless person overnight shelter, homelessness prevention. And we also provide, we need to do a good job at providing housing services for HIV/AIDS population, that's tenant-based rental assistance, rapid rehousing, and housing operations. So when we talk about this budget that we are presenting, I don't know how we're going to, can I just ask for next slide?
Next slide, please.
So we're really talking about the 2025 to 29 consolidated plan. It identifies these needs and how we're going to be addressing these needs. The document is 180 pages. I brought a copy, but it also is available on the website, on the city's website, on the Real Estate and Housing Department's page. This annual action.
Document that we were provided, that we have here, is that the thick packet?
I'm not sure if you provided it or not. It would have,
Maybe not, maybe this is the resolution.
yeah, I think that's a resolution that you
Sorry
have.
for interrupting, but since I did interrupt, I do want to
It would-
acknowledge.
It would
Okay,
be
that one.
titled.
Okay, if we can have that sent to us, that would be
Absolutely.
great. I do want to acknowledge that we have President Congo is present and Councilmember Owens is present. Thank you. You may continue.
Thank you. So the consolidated plan gives us a roadmap over 5 years. Our annual action plan gives us our budget for this year and how we're projecting that to be spent. And part of that is also a citizen participation plan. That is to meet the requirements that HUD has given us. That includes that we have had face-to-face meetings for technical assistance before the applications were deadlined, that we've had multiple information sessions, that we reached out to the providers of these services, our partners, for their input. We have reached out to the community for their input, of which I read some of those in my opening statement. And it just basically is a plan that encourages citizen participation during the development, the revision, and the amendment and adoption of this budget. Next slide, please. So what are our planning priorities? Absolutely, we want to administer these funds in a way that does not create liability for the city. We want to provide public services, improve public facilities and infrastructure, increase access, supply, and quality of housing, provide housing services to homeless and at risk, and provide housing services to HIV/AIDS population. Next slide, please. This is the 2025-2026 annual allocations. So in our CDBG, it's $2,200,000. Home is $477,000. HOPWA is $944,000, and ESG is $197,000. I might add that HOPWA, we are also responsible for Cecil County, and HUD is now talking to us about being responsible for South Jersey as far as a impact area for the HIV/AIDS HOPWA funding. Next slide, please. So one of the things that happens in our budget is that when funds are not spent in previous years, they're added in. So this year, we are also reprogramming $37,000 of home, and we had program income. Program income happens when we say, for instance, I'll use the West Tatnall project that I mentioned earlier. There's $160,000 that will be invested, and that will assure 11 to 15 apartments that would be held as affordable for 15 years. but it's a loan. So when they sell that property, those home dollars come back. So this year, we actually received $164,000 and change from program income. And previous years, we have actually received quite a few dollars back, and it's helped us because we have been able to put that right back into the community and provide affordable either homeownership or rental properties. Next slide, please. So this is really a breakdown. So as far as when you talk about the community development block grant, that is a $450,000 administration cost to the city. It's a cost, but not to the city. It's out of the grant itself. $1 million is going to be allocated for home repair programming. That is, we are working with the county's DLED program. So what happens is that they have a limited number of dollars that go into the homes when there's persons identified that have unsafe lead blood levels. But oftentimes we get caught between that. The $15,000 that they can put into a property does not bring us back to code. So we partner with them on that program. Home buyer program, there's $250,000, and that would again serve 80% and below AMI. Woodlawn trustees are rehabbing 4 units. The Ingleside Senior Housing Rehabilitation, they actually provide case-by-case repairs for folks that are aging in place. And I mentioned earlier the West Center City Tatnall Street project, but this is also, Interfaith is rehabbing a number of units there. And these dollars will assure that those units will remain affordable on income basis for 15 years. On the public service side, we are helping DCH and plant trees, and we are also recommending that Amani Commons at the Amani Village as part of the green space project over there. So that covers our $2,261,378. Next slide, please. This is just an attempt to break down as far as some of the organizations that we assist with the public service side of the community development block grant. These are all partners. These are all, we participate as part of their financing stack. There's none of these projects that would happen with just our money. So we are always partnering, whether it's with the state or with the county or our private entities. So when we talk about the Catholic Charities, there's homeless prevention there. There's a residential maternity program. You have the Christina Cultural Arts Program, Family Promise, which also deals heavily with homelessness prevention and services. Housing Alliance of Delaware. That is actually a requirement of HUD. Someone has to put all that information into the HUD system, so that's what they do for us. Interfaith has a homeownership center expansion, LACC. There's a crisis alleviation, early childhood services, Lutheran Community Services, Ministry of Caring, Sojourner's Place, STEM, the Challenge Program, West End Neighborhood House, the YM and YWCA. And there's also a line here at $30,000 which says innovative funding. We know that the mayor has a task force to look at homelessness cause and prevention, and we're hoping that that might be enough money to help them start something that otherwise they wouldn't be able to do. Next slide, please. Now, this is the Home Investment Partnership. So this, again, just so we're all clear on this, is that there's an administration fee. We in the Real Estate and Housing Department are almost like attorneys that when we work on a project, we have to put our hours into the funding source. So we're trying to do a much better job at that. I think I've talked to this committee before that there have been times that by the end of the year didn't match up and the city ended up having to pay for that. So we were trying to do a much better job there. Up in the Northeast, new construction, Habitat for Humanity at Prices Run. Cornerstone West on 3rd Street, housing rehabilitation there. Our home delivery program. The CHODO operating cost, that's basically what happens there is that you have a community-based development organization. For them to meet that requirement, they have to have certain board membership and other minor requirements. And at this point, Cornerstone is going to meet those requirements, so that helps them with admin costs. so that they can actually do some of these projects, because we all know that the project cost is not the only cost that comes with these things. So with our home investment partnership, we're budgeting $679,000 and change. Next slide, please. Once again, we break out our Cecil County Housing Agency program, our Ministry of Caring House of Joseph II, and our Delaware Housing Assistance Program for $916,000. Very specific population there. And next slide, please. Emergency Solutions Grant. With the admin, we have emergency shelter, that's Ministry of Caring in the West End Neighborhood House. We have the HMIS input, homeless prevention and rapid rehousing, both through the Y and the YW, and actually that's incorrect there. It should be YM and YW. My apologies. For $197,000. Next slide, please. I think I covered the slide information here in as much that the substantial amendment was just for two issues. Next slide, please. If there are any comments or questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Next slide, please. And anyone that's interested, that this information is all on the www.wilmingtonde.gov, government and housing. We are taking comments to July 3rd, so if there's any of these on the plan that someone would like to comment, we will take those into consideration by July 3rd. Madam Chair, I think that runs
I
through.
do have a couple questions.
Yes.
With the, yes. We need you to lower the signs because they can't see.
Can't see what?
That one right there has to be lowered.
Yes, cameras behind you.
The camera's behind you. You need to lower the signs. Okay, thank you. With the current administration cutting funding and targeting certain states, including housing, with the federal government, are we at risk of not getting this funding to help these programs, or what do you think might happen?
That's a loaded question, right?
Excuse me, let me acknowledge Councilmember Hackett has joined us.
That's a loaded question, in as much that no one, I don't think, knows right now what is actually going to happen out of our federal administration. I can say that every year the president submits a budget and then Congress works the budget. So when we talk about the hope that we have is that that process will work as it's done before, and there will be funding for community development and housing through the CDBG budget. Will there be cuts? I think there will be, yes. When you talk about they wanted to cut it down to zero, so they're starting at the 0 point from the administration side. When you talk about what will happen as far as if that doesn't come through, I mean, we're really talking about a $4 million program that's invested in the community and the citizens of Wilmington. I would imagine that the discussion has to be about what would be priority and what would be of lesser priority as far as what we're doing now.
So potentially, we may have to cut some of this is our request, but we may not be able to do all of this, and we'll have to prioritize.
I was going to say, this particular budget, once it's passed, I have the document that the mayor will sign and submit, and I think that is relatively low risk of this budget being affected. I think our next year's budget is really where we're going to see it.
Okay, great. Councilmember Owens?
Yes, I have two questions. One to the CDBG public services. Down here, you have one that falls under childhood services and youth development tuition assistance. Is there a reason why they're the only agency on this list for childcare and youth services with so many, with such a big need throughout the city of Wilmington? And if there is opportunity to diversify this a little bit, how can that be done? How is these programs chosen?
I guess the first answer would be the reason why there are these organizations that are been awarded is because they submitted applications. So there's only 2 housing applications that were not funded. So when you talk about we've got a great need, the reality of it is that when you take federal money, there are a lot of requirements that you have to meet. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs that when they look at those requirements say, I'm not really that interested in doing all that work for this amount of money. There are, there's some folks that when they look at a budget like this say we're only giving such and such an organization $30,000. Maybe we should just consolidate that in one organization rather than spreading around over more than one. So I think some of it is self-selection. And when we talk about how did this budget get to where it is, what happened is that we had a series of meetings that we encouraged the public and the service providers to apply for. They were all reviewed by a committee of folks that were represented by city council, by the administration, and by the public. They were scored, and from those scores, that basically what we had to do in the real estate and housing department is then we had to make sure that our caps were being covered, the percentage of monies that we can spend and can't spend in certain areas had to be met. So a lot of times what happens is that you have a applicant that you say, yes, this scored high enough to fund, and then we have to make sure that we are meeting all the federal compliance as far as on our budget and our percentages.
Thank you for that. And very similar question for the Emergency Solutions Grant from Homeless Prevention is down here as YWCA. Again, how can, in emergency shelter as well too, how can additional service providers get involved with this grant, such as the Friendship House?
Once again, the simplest answer without beating around the bush is that they would submit an application.
Okay.
But I'll go back to that comment that I made earlier. There are certain organizations that make a conscious decision that federal funding is not where they want to be. That's not their lane. And, and oftentimes it's because of the reporting requirements and what you can and can't do. Like say, for instance, the federal government wants to tell you exactly who you must and who you must not shelter. And there's a lot of organizations that are like, no, we like to decide that ourselves.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from council members? I wanted to specifically ask, what programs are there for children aging out of foster care? And who's managing that, and where's the funding for that?
Well, that primarily comes from the state. I mean, as far as when you talk about, what we have as far as the total budget and what the state has, that has been consolidated at the state level.
Okay. All righty then. Okay, but this is a resolution. Are there any other questions from council? Yes.
Yes, I just had one point question regarding the community development block grant funds. So I think it's on page 4 of the slide when you're talking about the total $2.2 million. So for the home repair program, there's $259,538. So that's in addition to the lottery program that the council and the mayor does, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And for this particular home repair program, do people just go to the website since the lottery program is an application process? It's a lottery.
Primarily, that $259,538 is to support the Newcastle County de-lead and reducing lead hazards. What happens there is that when they go in to a property that has been reported a elevated blood level, a lead blood level, oftentimes they have additional needs that are not covered. And not only do we help support them in the city, but we also help, I don't want to say problem properties, but properties that exceed what their normal budget is. So that's really being driven out of the need for reduction of lead hazard in that particular program. The program that we get a lot of calls for, we haven't had in the real estate and housing department for a number of years, in as much that we used to go into properties and do total rehabs. That was in years gone by. I happen to know it because I was here at that point. But that was when the Real Estate and Housing Department had about 22 employees, and the budget was much larger. And what we did is we actually had a staff person that would go out and do the specs and oversee the work and put a loan on the property in whatever fashion they were doing at that particular time. That has been really transferred, centralized to the state. And when DSHA has money, we act as a concierge from the Real Estate and Housing Department. When someone calls us up and says, here's the problem I have, we as an organization try to get them to the organizations that have the resources.
Chair, follow-up?
follow-up.
Just one last follow-up question. With the substantial amendment to the fiscal year, calendar year 2024 plan regarding the jump start for the demolition, is that unusual or is that normal? Were there any meetings to discuss that decision?
It was part of the discussion when we rolled out the consolidated plan and the annual plan. What's happened is that there are properties that have been long-term vacant, and when they are standing there and you're not going into it on a developmental basis, sometimes you don't know how bad the properties have gotten. That particular property, and there was another one on 8th Street that's the Jumpstart folks looked at it, we looked at it and said, this property is a demo because we had an engineer come in and say, yes, you should not be rehabbing this property. This property is tearing down the property next to it, which then is an additional number. So we did talk about it in our public meetings, and this just so happens that if it just sits there, we're not going to spend it. HUD does not like to see that, so we pulled it back from the Jump Start, and we're going to take those buildings down.
And last one. Yes. And as far as the capital budget, like we would have funds for demolition and acquisitions?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from council members or staff? Is there anyone here that wants to comment on this piece of legislation, this resolution? On this, it has to be with this resolution. You may come up. Ann Aviles.
So thank you for allowing me to speak. I really appreciated hearing a lot of what you had to say. I really hope that we can help support families, workforce development, youth aging out of foster care, those that are severe cost burden. You called them CHAS. Can you say what is that for again? Am I allowed? I don't know if I'm.
If you may answer, Director, please.
You said.
Delaware State Housing Authority?
Yep, you said 39% of city households are rent burden, and but you called it like CHAS.
That is, I'm sure I get it correctly said. That is the Comprehensive Housing Affordability Strategy document.
Okay, and is this available to the public as well?
Actually, it's national.
It's national.
It comes out of HUD, yes.
Okay, great. So what I heard, if I am understanding correctly, about 39% of city households are cost burden, and about 20% are extremely cost burden. And the funding that you outlined here can benefit about 5,000 households. Is that about
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Okay. So
Per year.
Per year, yes. So I do appreciate that. And I also want to note that when we did our calculations to look at rent stabilization, that about 40,000 people can benefit in just 1 year. So I just want us to recognize that we should be doing everything we can, including supporting rent stabilization so that we can 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, rather than waiting 8 years for 40,000 families to be stably housed. With rent stabilization in 1 year, we can have 40,000 households supported. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to comment on this? Ms. Cheyenne Miller may come up.
Hi, my name is Cheyenne Miller. I'm a resident in the 7th District, and I am so happy to see that the city continues to do all the work it needs to be able to get funding from HUD to keep people housed. It's essential that we are doing all the work that is necessary to get any federal funding that will exist. However, I heard you ask the question earlier about what happens if that federal funding gets cut, and I'm really concerned about that. And I'm even more concerned about the fact that that's on your mind, and yet you still voted no against rent stabilization, Maria Cabrera. So I'm here to express my concern about the fact that we're worried about being able to get federal funding from a government that's probably not going to be able to take care of us in the next 3 or 4 years during your time on session, and you voted against rent stabilization that would have provided us the protections we needed against high rent hikes. I'm also disappointed on the fact that Yolanda McCoy voted present instead of actually taking a stand and supporting the people that are here today and people across the city who just need rent stabilization. It's like a necessity. So I'm really disappointed to see that we're talking about getting money from the federal government. We're aware of the fact that the federal government is going to be cutting HUD funds, has cut HUD staff, and we're asking for money from them. And instead of doing what it was necessary to do to make sure that people are protected, should those funds be cut, you voted against it. So I'm very disappointed in you.
You all may speak, and you have to speak to the items on the agenda. We're not discussing rent stabilization today. And if you would like to have a conversation with me as to why I voted no, with the data that I researched, I'm happy to do that with you
That was
and
about
anyone
10
else.
seconds of my time. You gonna give me extra back?
You can speak on the legislation in reference to what
I
was
just
just...
spoke in response to this. If we do not get this money, you voted no. What are you guys going
Me
to
voting
do
no has nothing to do with this.
to address this? What are you guys going to do to address the fact that people are struggling with housing and we may not have HUD funds to be able to make sure people stay housed? That is a question that is related to this. What y'all gonna do? Are you open to passing rent stabilization? Should we lose funding from HUD? Would you change your vote?
The data doesn't change. No, I read the data. I read
People are
plenty of it.
struggling with their
I'm not
rent.
here to
He just
confront
said
you
it
about rent
himself.
stabilization. Please continue with your comment in reference to this piece of
50%
legislation.
of the state is rent burden. I just heard that 39% of the people in the city are rent burden. I'm sure that that number is significant. That's a lot of people. I'm really concerned about what happens if we're unable to get funding for HUD. What happens to the people who are experiencing extreme rent hikes and can't afford to stay in their home?
Yeah, the solution is providing more affordable housing. Rent stabilization is going to hurt the city. We are not San Francisco and we're not New York. As I said, I'm happy to discuss the data that I read, the research that I did before I made my votes.
I'm glad that you're sticking with that vote. I hope you do on
I am.
September 2028.
Thank you. Anyone else speaking to this legislation? The lady was first.
My name's Megan Wilson, Maria Cabrera. You did vote no against rent stabilization.
Are you speaking to this
Let me
legislation?
finish. Let me finish. I did not disrupt you. Let me finish. You did vote against rent stabilization, against your community that voted you in to protect and watch over our best interest. You don't give a damn about us but your only pocketbook. That's all you care about, along with all your colleagues that were bought out. You understand this bill very clearly, lady. You are choosing to dismiss that you don't. You are acting as if
Are
you're
you
dumb,
speaking to
but
the
you
legislation?
are very clear. Now, I'm going to speak to that. This is the problem. I am a child that was ward of the state for my whole entire damn life, okay? I got stated out at 16 after accusing several people of molestation, and there is a nationwide lawsuit going on. However, when I got stated out, it was to shut me the fuck up. That's it. Not for
Ma'am,
nothing
we are
else.
on live
Excuse my
television. You
language.
cannot
But
be
to shut
cursing
me
in
up,
here.
that's all you're trying to do too. Shut me up, but it's not going to happen. They shut me up by dismissing me out of the system, called stating me out. But did they state me out anywhere good? Hell no. They stated me out to a mom that trafficked me to make me go pick up drugs to go bring it back to her. So that was the only place that I had to live. Did they give me a damn penny at age 16 when they put me on that bus to Chicago from here? No, they did not. Do they care today? No, they do not. If the government loses money, it's on your dime and all y'all colleagues that said no. Good luck with that shit, and see you on your voting, because you will not win.
Brandon?
Good evening, committee members.
Please make sure the comments are to this
The
legislation,
Emergency
please.
Solutions Grant Program provides critical funding for housing solutions like rapid rehousing and homelessness prevention for vulnerable residents facing housing insecurity. President-elect Trump has made clear that his administration intends to dismantle the already insufficient guardrails that prevent the president from abusing the executive branch's power. Trump and his allies have made it clear of their desire to use the power of the presidency to dismantle the Department of Housing and Urban Development, strip Section 8 and rental assistance. Supporting legislation such as rent stabilization would complement the efforts of the City Council trying to address the issues of housing by protecting renters from unfair rent hikes. By preventing sudden rent increases, we can reduce the displacement and help decrease spikes in homelessness, keeping families housed and communities stable. I'm really frustrated that you voted no against rent stabilization. I have some cards I wanted to give you from your constituents who, were counting on you to support this. I don't know if it's enough for you to see that people wanted you to support this. So, do the right thing.
Anyone else speaking to this legislation? Okay, we'll proceed to the next agenda item. Since it is a resolution, it does not require to be voted out of committee. It will be on the July 3rd meeting. Thank you, Director Weir, for the presentation. Sure. And if you can make sure that we have copies of that report. If we have it electronically, that would be better. That's a lot of paper.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Take care, Director.
Next item on the agenda is an ordinance to amend Chapter 2 of the City Code to require City Council to approve of appointed board members on the Wilmington Neighborhood Conservancy Land Bank. This ordinance is being held. Councilmember Oliver wanted to be held. So the next item on the agenda will be item ordinance 25-025, an ordinance to amend Chapter 11 of the City Code relating to religious exemptions from noise ordinances. The sponsor is Councilmember Darby. You may proceed to speak on your ordinance.
Yeah, so. I don't think mine is on. Hello? Yes.
WITN, is the mic on?
Hello. Yeah, I think it's on. I hear myself. This piece of ordinance is really looking at the city code related to religious exemption from noise ordinance. So our Muslim community, they do several prayers in a day. And there's one prayer that they're not able to do. There's already religious exemption. So churches and temples and other mosques already makes loud noises. The Catholic Church rings bells, every few hours. The masjids, they send out a call, a prayer every few hours. But there is one prayer that they're not able to do, and they're looking and would like to do that. So, and inclusive of the already religious exemptions, this would just allow for them to do all of their prayers and be able to put that call out for all of the prayers they have. So it's really simple. It's really a community bill. The Muslim community reached out and asked for this. So I'm just pushing it forward for the community, really.
Okay. Councilmember Owens.
Yes, thank you. I just want to say thank you for bringing this forward. Right now in America, we're seeing people's First Amendment rights being attacked left and right, especially our Muslim community. So I've talked to a few people who live in my district who've asked me to support this. This seems like a bill of equity. We already give religious exemptions, so I would just like to be added as a co-sponsor onto this as well.
Thank you. Councilmember Darby, I have a question. At what time would the announcements be made? I mean, I lived in a neighborhood when I heard the bells ringing from the church, so I fully understand. Would it be any time of the day that would be considered disruptive to the nearby neighbors, or would it be during normal waking hours?
So it is, I wake up at 5 o'clock. So I guess everybody's waking hours are different. But I do believe it's between that 5, 6 o'clock period, which doesn't fall in the religious exemption time. So it is for most people, it would be considered early.
Do we have any information on any of the neighborhoods that might be in close vicinity to, residentials where they may be an issue? Do we have any studies or anything?
I don't have any particular studies. I know I had spoke to the Muslim community. They have a petition, so they went around to the neighborhoods to collect signatures and to talk to them about it. So I know they have physical signatures, and then they did an electronic petition that they'll be coming on the July 3rd meeting to bring all of the petitions and signatures that they receive from the local community and also from within their community. But I don't have like a study or assessment on that.
Well, I mean, as long as the neighbors don't object, I don't think it should be an issue, and that's what my concern was, if there's any pushback. But if they are doing their due diligence and reaching out to the neighbors and they're okay with it, I believe one of the mosques is right on Governor Prince Boulevard, and there really isn't a close proximity. I think there's only two others that are in the neighborhood.
Yeah, there's
26
one
in
in 26 in Washington, Governor Prince, and there's one off of close to 4th Street, I believe, or Union. So those are the three.
All right, great.
Oh, yeah, we have public comment from
Yeah.
the last time online, from the last resolution.
I have my hand up,
I'm sorry, Councilmember
Madam Chair.
McCoy, you may
Yeah,
You may
thank
proceed.
you. Yeah, so I did reach out to Councilman Darby just to see whether or not the messages that we're going to be doing a call to prayer were the ones that I was familiar with, and they were. I didn't know whether or not there was any new ones. I think that because of the fact that they're definitely like anchors in the community, all of them I think have been here for some time now. I think that the neighborhood is pretty much familiar with it. In my concern, I just wanted to kind of go. I thought I would have enough time to go by there just to, like, during the time frame that they would be doing one before I got here. Before I got online or whatever, but I wasn't able to get that information to see whether or not it was a new one or anything. But from what I understand, the very first one actually it is a little earlier. It's almost like 4 a.m. But if it's anything like what people who live near churches and such, you kind of starts to become like background noise if it doesn't pertain to you. I don't really find an issue with it. I just wanted to hear what it actually sounded like initially. But I didn't get this information until we pretty much got right before we got on.
I can share the times. Yeah, so I had Chat GPT the times, but it talks about the times today for June 23rd because it's like based on the sunrise and sunset and different things like that. So today the dawn of prayer was at 3:55 a.m. Then they did a sunrise at 5:32, the noon prayer 1:03, afternoon prayer 5:02, the sunset prayer at 8:33, and then the night prayer at 10:11. So those were the times for today. So it looks different, based on the season and the time that the prayers would be. So they currently already do it. It's just the religious exemption only allows for a certain time period. And this one allows for that first early 3:50, the one that would be early in the morning to happen.
So I'm just going to ask. So currently they are doing it, but not the ones that are at 4 a.m. and 5 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's because of the noise ordinance.
Yes.
Does it project loud enough for neighbors to hear and others to hear, or is it just something right outside the mosque?
It's just something
I've
right
never heard
outside
it.
the mosque.
Okay. Any other questions? Any other council members online? Are there any comments from anyone in the chambers in reference to this resolution? You may proceed.
The only concern that I see with this, and I'm like, the time, the day, the early morning, the late at night, because I have a disabled child, and he has to go by certain structure, for him to maintain a daily living schedule. And that would be something that would be disturbing and wake him up. He goes to bed at 8 p.m. and wakes up at 6 a.m. So that would be like something to wake people up, and people have trouble sleeping as is. Like, I'm on a lot of medicine and can't sleep. So, that's the only concern that I have is the late night and the early morning.
Are you, is there a mosque? Are you near, do you live near one of the mosques?
You live near one?
I don't know where they are. I just moved to this 105 East 24th.
So if you did live near them, they already do the call to prayer, so you're not hearing it.
Okay. Well, as long as I didn't know if it was a loud bell or,
No, not like the Catholic churches. They are loud. I'm not far from one, but I kind of just got used to it.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that was a concern, Councilman Darby, that I did hear for people who are either the elderly or young children and folks who do, once you're disrupted from sleep, it's hard for people to get back to sleep, whether that would affect that. That's why the neighbors signing on board, I guess it's important, because if it's not going to bother them and they're agreeing to it, then they can't come back and say, you guys allowed this to happen and it's now, disturbing the peace. So are there any other questions from the public? Anyone online that wants to comment on this legislation? And I did miss public comment online. Originally, I was told that online public comment wasn't working, but now it is. So we had someone named Alice and Zumana who were online that wanted to comment, even though we did already pass the previous legislation. I will allow them to speak. If Alice or Zumana is online and you still would like to speak to the previous legislation, we will allow you to do so after Councilmember McCoy makes a comment. Do you have a comment, Councilmember McCoy? Your hand's up.
Yes, I just wanted to ask Councilwoman Darby for the persons that she has spoke with about the getting the Adhan to be played during the different hours. That petition that she has, whether or not it's online or physical, it should be able to have them send that in before, just to make people aware that the neighbors who are close to the church are actually in favor of it. I think that would help a lot.
Okay, I can let them know.
All right.
To have it ahead of time. At this time, is Alice or Zumana online? And if you would like to comment, you may proceed. Just state your name, please.
Hi, I'm Alice. I don't want to cut anybody off.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry I didn't call on you before.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Alice. You may proceed.
Okay, perfect. All right. So good evening. Of course, now you know my name is Alice. I've been a renter here for 8 years, going on 8 years, and literally less than 24 hours after the city council voted down the rent stabilization, my landlord raised my rent almost 15%. Right now I'm kind of stuck. Am I supposed to be paying my rent or, paying for the health insurance for my children? What is the city going to do to help the renters in this situation since it was already turned down? Is there anything you guys plan on doing for the people who have been long-term residents here?
Miss Alice, the legislation that was previously spoken about is about sending a grant to the federal government, which does provide the city with assistance for affordable housing and other programs. That is specifically for those programs, and that's what we're asking you to comment on that piece of legislation. But we hear your concerns, and affordable housing is addressed in that request. Whether we will continue to get those funds or not did come up. But there are programs and there are organizations that are working on this as we speak. There is a report from the Delaware State Housing Authority that submits a full report that they conducted on how to address the housing affordability in Delaware, as well as homelessness and housing altogether. So that it would be the Delaware State Housing Authority. I would welcome everyone to take a look at that and read that report, because it does have some excellent recommendations, and collaboratively, all three governments are working on those.
Now, I have a question. When you're saying there's, assistance, does this qualify for people who are just outside of the qualifying limits to even receive Medicaid and stuff? Are they actually going to be, for people who just a little bit higher than the income threshold?
No, housing is different. They have different levels with housing.
Okay.
For as an example, I sit on several housing boards, and to live in one of those units, they have one for the very low income, then they have the moderate, and they have then further up. So it actually works on a sliding fee scale. So it would be subsidized housing. And from what I understand, that is something that we're working on to get the state to put $100 million into subsidized housing and giving subsidies so that people could have affordable rents instead of just putting the $27 million that they put into the budget for that. To
That would be
incentivize
amazing.
more
Do you know how long the like wait list would be for something like that though?
Well, if you work with the current housing that exists and just ask them, give them the subsidy so they can open up more units. Because of course, building is what takes the longest. Building more housing is
feels
also
like
another
it's a
solution.
fight, to keep fighting, to get nothing, to get no help. That's what it feels
Well,
like to me.
current
as a
landlords
renter here
could
in this
apply
city.
for that subsidy, to get that subsidy to help the people that are already in their homes.
Landlords can apply for it, not renters. That's the problem with y'all. Landlords, not renters.
Ma'am, I can't have you speaking out of turn.
Oh, you're just.
You can't speak
I'll give
out
her
of
my
turn.
time. She can take my time.
The subsidies would mean that they would get subsidized so that you can get the affordable rents. Okay, so, or Ms. Hallis, did that answer your question? Yep. Ma'am, you cannot speak out of order, please.
I mean,
Alice?
it didn't when it came to like helping people who are going to be outside of the income threshold. That doesn't answer my question because we do not qualify. We're now paying $1,000 for health insurance and now have to somehow pay an extra $200 for rent. This is really messed up.
I hear your
But
frustration,
I'm
Ms.
done
Alice, but
answering
today
or
we have to
asking the
comment
question. I
on
mean, there's
the
nothing really to
items
be-
on the agenda.
Thank you.
We have to comment on the items that are on the agenda. Thank you. Do we have Zumana Noor? Is Zumana Noor online? Okay, not hearing anything. We're going to move on to the next, we have to, any last comments on this legislation?
Just trying to make sure that we're inclusive and respectful to all the diverse religious traditions in the city. So that's what this legislation is about.
Okay. So at this point, because it is an ordinance, it does need to be voted out of committee. So can I get a motion?
Motion to release.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. All right, this will go to the July 3rd meeting. The next ordinance is 25-026, an ordinance to amend Chapter 2 of the City Code to dissolve the Wilmington Neighborhood Conservancy Land Bank. The sponsor is Councilmember Darby. You may proceed with your.
Yeah, so we had several conversations on this particular council so far about the land bank. And I just think it's really important for us to be bold and courageous in the work that we're doing and realize when something has either fulfilled its goal or is not working for the best of the whole city anymore. So as we know, the land bank was established by the state, and then the city, it gave us authority for the city to then create a land bank. We created a land bank. Currently, right now, there are a lot of issues, and they still have not been resolved. There's lack of transparency. There is a lack of, and there's issues with conflict of interest. There are issues of them feeling as if they are their own entity and do not have to report to city council. And it's starting to become a real issue or problem. And we highlighted a lot of it in the last meeting. They could not answer most of the questions, still have not to this day accomplished a lot of things that we asked for. And at one point in time, we got to hold these entities accountable. We just keep letting them for years on top of years, keep doing the same thing, asking them to do something. Oh, we're going to do it. Wait a few months. They don't do it. Give them another opportunity to do it. And I just really think when we look at the land bank, we can come up with a committee who can then decide where do we move forward to dealing with our vacant and abandoned buildings in our city, come up with some innovative ideas, do something different, do something new, do something instead of the ordinary of the same. It's always the same players at the table. And when I was looking at like who was on the board, I couldn't even get who was on the advisory board. There's no transparency. People who were receiving properties are also sitting on the board. What type of conflict of interest is that? Of course, I'm going to vote in the best interest of myself if I sit on a board and my organization is receiving property. You have a list that was, I haven't looked at it. over the last week or two, so I don't know if it's been updated. But I asked the land bank to update the list. They literally have a list of property, and some of them are reserved. And I said, reserved for who and what? Y'all need to let us know. You guys are not, the land bank is not its own nonprofit entity. We created you, so you have to answer to us, and you're supposed to answer to the community. And they're not doing that. Literally, you go on the website, it's reserve, reserve, reserve. There's some given to Habitat for Humanity, and that president sits on the board, and he's also on the president of the advisory board, which we can't figure out who's on there because it's not public. There's just a lack of transparency. They're not willing to do the right thing. I have asked for them to have a public hearing about a land bank. What they did was they took a regular community meeting, brought the ex-mayor Michael Przicki in to just give them an update about it. It was not a true accountability measure to really figure out what they did, how they did it. And I'm tired of the games. I'm not playing anymore. They need to be dissolved. Now, to dissolve a land bank, the state gives us the authority. And I know, honestly, I'm going to tell you guys, like, I come in with very low expectations for this city council, and I'm going to be frank. But I need 9 votes. But I think it should go on the table for a conversation to be had about the land bank and how we move. We're not going to have courageous 9 people to stand up and say we need to do something different and something new for our city. They're going to want to continue to use the land bank to continue to do the work that it's doing and still have the lack of transparency, the lack of accountability, and the lack of just the lack of transparency, the conflict, like everything I mentioned and things that have been mentioned before, it's just unacceptable. And I'm not going to keep going back and forth, especially with, it's like a child. I'm not going to keep going back and forth with you. At one point, it's, give me your phone. It's done. It's over. Like, this is done. We're ending this. I'm not going back and forth with somebody that the city created. We have the authority. We have the power to make sure the land bank is doing the right thing. And it's cute that there are city council people that sit on the board of the land bank. But over the last few years, there's just been so many discrepancies. Actual city council people have been excluded from meetings about big decisions that are being made, especially when it came to Gibraltar. And imagine all the other meetings we don't know about and the things that they're doing behind the back door. And it's just not a transparent organization, and it needs to be dissolved. That was one of the best things that could have been said at the last meeting that we had about the land bank, that it needs to be dissolved. And my thing is that we come to the table as a council, we have several meetings about it with the community, and we figure out what the next steps are to be able to deal with our vacant buildings, to deal with how do we increase home ownership, how do we make sure people are housed in our city. But I think we could be creative, I think we could be innovative, and I think we can take the next step forward to really looking at the real role of this land bank and what it is, who's running it. So thank you, guys. I just want to, I guess, open it up for my council colleagues to have their comments about the land bank.
So I'm going to start it out, being that I do sit on the board of the land bank. And first, I want to clarify, and there's nothing cute about being on the board. The board members and family cannot acquire properties. So that does not happen and cannot happen. And anything that's reserved is for a development project, means either a multi-unit project that's going on. It could be a project that Woodlawn is involved in, East Side Rising, which was the city of Wilmington. It could be Habitat for Humanity. You mentioned Habitat for Humanity and the being on the board. A board member does not directly benefit from anything that happens in an organization that they're managing. You're just the figurehead. That organization does good work. They provide affordable housing for home ownership. Woodlawn provides affordable housing for rentals. And in terms of our success, the land bank is a public-private entity, and our success can be seen in our current report. The data and the numbers don't lie. And if you want to see it for yourself, two projects you can look at: East Side Rising. You can look at the lower Hilltop area, where out of 50 vacant properties, the land bank acquired 42 of them. 14 of them have been sold. There are homeowners who bought them at an affordable price and are living there, single moms, grandmoms with their children. And there's 7 more that are going on the market now. In fact, 2 of them I saw jump up on Zillow. So they're already in the market to be sold, and there's more that are being worked on. The executive board met to make decisions on Gibraltar, and I will admit that I wasn't there and I wasn't part of that decision making. We did hear about it at the meeting when they brought it forth, and we went forth because it is a land bank. Any property that the city acquires, whether the land bank themselves is developing it or giving it to a developer, which is the small contractors, 85% of them minority owned, that are growing their businesses capacity because they're making money on these properties that they're selling. So we did vote on that, and that's where the property went, but it was not money that we used. It was money that the state allotted specifically for that property, not for the land bank to use for other properties when people say, how come you didn't use it for this or that? That was the state bond committee that allotted that property. So right now, neighborhood stabilization is one of the things that we're seeing taking place by repurposing these vacant properties. In the Lower Hilltop alone, 53%. That's how crime has come down, 53%. Now when you walk the streets and you talk to the neighbors, they feel like the city and people care about them because they feel that finally an attention has been paid to their neighborhood. And it's not just the land bank, it's partnerships with West Side Grows, with the Latin American Community Center, with Light Up Delaware. They came out, they put out lights, they put out cameras. So the neighborhood itself is stabilizing one house at a time. So, and I respect you, Councilmember Darby, and you're entitled to your opinion. I know you have, your reasons as well as other council members, but I will not be supporting this. And of course, I will fight and advocate for the land bank because that is the affordable housing that we're making available with rents and with homeownership. Councilmember Hackett.
Yeah, Chair, I just have a question. My question is around, I think you stated there's an executive board, so I just want to know, is there, I don't sit on the board of the land bank, you do, so I just want to know, is there 2 different boards? And also, when we talked about the reserve list, I think you stated like these are for certain nonprofits, but as a council, why don't we know exactly what nonprofits they go to? I think it was more like it might go to West End, it might go to, so I just want to know like, where are the actual facts of these information?
That information can be gotten to you.
I requested it, Councilmember Cabrera.
Well, it is online now, so everything that you requested, a lot of those things are online. In terms of 2 boards, Councilman Hackett, I don't know how many boards you sat on, but there is the executive committee that is part of the one board. Like the finance director is usually on there and a few others, and actually Director Weir is part of the executive board. But more information, and again, I've invited the council members to take a tour, to come down to the office, sit, meet with the director, and have your questions answered. But the website is updated, and all the information is on there. And the audit, there's a copy of the audit in front of you that was put on your desk before the meeting.
So I do have another question.
Yes, you may proceed.
Just as once again, you guys, you sit on the board, and this audit was completed, and it looks like for every category, it failed every category basically. Like every category, the accounting, financial reporting, job costs, valuation of inventory lots, valuation of reserve for lots, valuation for restricted and unrestricted funds, segregation of duties. Like, I don't know, as we move forward, I'm just trying to figure out, once again, several members of council sit on the board, and with the city auditor did this report. I'm trying to figure out how do we move forward with the land bank if it's failing audits. And we're asking for documentation, we're asking for different things to get updated, and it's not happening.
I would welcome you to come to the office so you can have your questions answered, but whatever happened with the first audit has been corrected. The land bank did not have a director, and the person that was working there was out for over 3 months sick. So they were down to 2 people running the office. So yes, there were some shortcomings and there were some issues in the past, but they have been corrected. So I do welcome you to come and get that information. And Councilmember McCoy has her hand raised, and then we'll go to you, Councilmember Owens.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to kind of state that I've been around a while since the land bank was kind of in its conception, not on council, but just kind of while they were working on it. And understand that its name actually lets you know exactly what it does. It's a land bank. They're basically holding on to properties because at one point they thought that the best way to do things was to do things a block at a time. So if you had a raggedy block and you had like about 7 or 8 vacant houses on there, and they managed to, they had to acquire like the other 3, they were always holding on to this so they can redo an entire block. Now that takes time. And I'm not certain whether or not that is still their MO, but I know that was kind of initially what they were trying to do. when it comes to some of these reserve properties, I know that I've actually had to write recommendation letters to people that I know who have been working with the land bank and putting houses together and putting them back online. I have a house in Browntown and a house in Hedgeville that I was able to help people who were like I don't want. I keep calling everybody young, not young, but they're a little younger than me. But they're actually, they're entrepreneurs. They are putting together homes. They are building their own businesses as contractors. And I was happy to send another letter of recommendation that they did such a great job. I saw somewhere else. I would love for them to be able to continue doing this throughout the city. I'm all about making certain that we are recognizing the people here in our area that are capable of making certain that we were able to afford housing. One house sold for 179, the other one sold for 129. This is actually, I know we look at affordable housing in this day and age, a brand new affordable housing is like 250. But if you get a totally restored house and you're able to buy it for 179 or 129, that is a big deal. So me personally, I really do think that when it came to accountability, I voted to see, find out more information about what was going on with the land bank. I do think that it is up to us now to do the oversight that needs to happen. We were really relaxed. I think only one person was truly going to those meetings. Now we have a flashlight on it. We are trying to figure out what's going on there. I believe one of the properties that one of the lots that is probably required to do that big development that's happening over with the Raw story. I think that part of that was actually part of like land bank as well. We're here to get the work done, and this is a tool. We got to sharpen the tool. We got to keep a flashlight on it. And if it comes to making certain that we know everything that's happening, then let's do that. Why throw out this thing and start from scratch, not knowing what we're doing or whatever, when we can actually make certain that they're doing what we need to get done? I just want to make certain that these vacant homes that can house a family are restored and be able to do so. So that's my input on it. Like I stated, my ears been to the ground about land bank for a while. I knew the very first person who actually was the director of the land bank, and she is now a council person. But I'm like I said, so I've always heard about what the land bank true form was and what they were trying to get done. Now, when it comes to council people, I asked, could I buy a property? Because I got a son that's driving me a little cuckoo and he ain't got nowhere to go. But they told me no. I was told flat out no, I could not get a property. So I don't know what happened before or whatever, but I've been told no, I could not get a property. So they're not extending that grace. If they extended it before, they're not extending it any longer. So I just wanted to make certain that you guys understood where I was coming from, because I feel as though this tool is needed. We got to get these vacant properties back online so that people have somewhere affordable to stay. Because now, even if it's not being sold right away, at least it's another unit. So
Thank you, Councilmember.
I just wanted to make sure that I put that information out there.
Oh, okay.
All right, thank you. I'm going to have Kobe, Councilmember Owens, you're next.
Yes. So a few things. Thank you, Councilwoman McCoy, for everything you just stated. I'm glad that's happening in your area, but in my area, it's the exact opposite, and it looks like profiteering in the first district. And the properties that were sold through the land bank, they're being sold for $329,000. It's not affordable whatsoever, especially when the average income for my area is about $36,000. The same opportunity that is being afforded to other parts of the city is again not being afforded to the first district. This is a common pattern with the former administration, this land bank, and everything that they do. I do have some concerns, and I do want to start this by saying this is probably going to be my last community development and urban planning meeting. The chair and some of the other senior council members would like to remove me from this committee. So with that being said, and I've asked them not to, but it probably will happen. So I just want to say this report that we were given was a report by our city auditor, an auditor in which the vast majority of us currently on this council voted to reconfirm as the city auditor. So I do have faith in his work. I have gotten to talk to him quite often and believe in the work that he does. My colleague, Councilman Hackett, highlighted that the land bank, the Wilmington Land Bank, the entity that we are supposed to have oversight on, failed in every single category. If this was school, this kid would have to repeat the grade and would not be able to go forward. I just want to state, it was said that, the executive or the person acting as the executive director was out for 3 months, so therefore some of the paperwork wasn't done. But in this report, it states that the financials for 2022, 2023 were not completed on time. It was completed almost a year or 48 months after it was supposed to be done. And that the 2024 paperwork financials were not completed. We're talking about millions of dollars that is going to this organization, and just saying, hey, because they do some good work, we should completely negate all our responsibility as council and oversight is a mischaracterization of what we're supposed to be doing. On my next point, in this statement, it says the land bank does not have an employee on staff with a bachelor's degree in accounting and will require a high-level accounting assistance to correct all accounting issues identified. This is huge. This is huge. It led to us establishing loss of revenues and burning through city and taxpayer dollars. That is our primary focus, is to be good stewards of our taxpayer dollars. And we have seen time and time again, and now we have an official report from our city auditor that we voted to confirm that states that this organization has misused funds. I just want to highlight that again. They have misused funds, and they have not done proper accounting, and there has not been proper oversight. Again, even when the director was not there, and that's okay, organizations go through changes all the time. The board is the top entity of this organization. They're the ones that are supposed to have the oversight directly for the day-to-day operations. The executive director oversees the day-to-day operations and brings in additional money, but that is not what's happening here. Again, this performance audit makes it very clear that the Wilmington Land Bank, as of July 2024, so before I got on council, they have been abusing and misusing funds, and that is not appropriate for us to continue to fund an organization like this. I do believe that things have to change. Things have to change. And why a person on the board may not directly be benefiting from acquiring properties, if my organization is receiving dozens and dozens and dozens of property that others don't even know is available, well, guess what? That's cheaper for me. So now I can bring on additional staff. I can raise my own salary. I could do all these other things because I have the flexibility to do that. Here on council, I cannot give discretionary funds to a nonprofit that I sit on a board because I have additional knowledge of that particular nonprofit's operations. So there is clear conflict here. And again, I have nothing against the organization, that the work that they do in the community. I actually enjoy their work and think their work is beneficial. But again, it has created barriers for other people that they don't have, especially when it comes to that reserve list. I do thank them for putting the list up finally. But again, some of this stuff we have asked, we've now have 3 community development meetings in which we have talked about the land bank and asked for the same stuff 3 times. We had 2 council meetings in which we talked about this and asked for the same stuff, and we're just not getting it at all. So if this is going to be my last meeting, let it be my last meeting. Yeah, that's all I got.
Councilmember Darby.
I just want to address a few things. So they did upload a list that I would love for everyone to go to the Wilmington Land Bank list and please look at what this list looks like. You, again, reserve and hold are 2 different things, because I think another council person was talking about, oh, they're holding it. To hold something or to say something is reserved have 2 different meanings. And when you look at the property list that they have and they put reserved for some of them, they tell you who it's reserved for. There's a few reserved for Habitat for Humanity, where the very actual executive director of Habitat for Humanity, serves on the board. And I want to clarify something because Councilmember Hackett asked how many boards are on the land bank. So the executive board is a part of a regular board, right? You have like a board, and then your executive, or maybe you're like 3-4 top people who have like positions and titles. That's your executive. So that's board 1. Board 2, there is an advisory board. The actual person who is in Habitat for Humanity also serves on the advisory board. He's the president on the advisory board, right? There's an advisory board. When I go on this website, I cannot tell you who's on the advisory board. Please tell me who sits on the advisory board. In our code, in our state code, in our city code, it states that we have an advisory board. And then when you go online and look at who's on the regular board, it then tells you Kevin Smith, I think, who's also the executive director of Habitat for Humanity, who organization also gets and has reserved on the current website, gets property from the land bank. And then it states that he's the president or some type of position, I can't remember, on the advisory board. I then go on the website to find the advisory board, and I can't find who is advising the land bank's regular board. So I run a nonprofit. I have a board. I have a board meeting every third Wednesday. I know what an executive board is. I know what a board is. And I also have an advisory board. You can easily see who is on my advisory board. That's called transparency to the community. And I wasn't even created by another entity. I was created by me. I created it, right? So that is the 2 boards that the land bank has, and you can't find any information about who serves on that advisory board. And we should know, because we should know who is making decisions about our land bank. And we should be making most of the decisions. The current executive director is Bud Frill. He's been a part of many other failed organizations, which the city owed millions of dollars because of the work that he did on that board. And he wasn't just a board member. He served as an advisor. He served on the executive part of boards, and they made terrible decisions that cost taxpayers millions of dollars. So I want y'all to think about who they're putting into these seats, and they recycle the same people, and they're all connected. They're all connected to these big developers. They're all friends, and they're connected, and that's what it is. It's the same people. He is not the person we should select to run our land bank. He is not it. And there's 2 boards, and there was misuse. They failed the audit, and the list has been uploaded, but the list looks a hot mess. It's not presentable for a community. It lacks information. It has acronyms on there. HFH. What is HFH? Who knows that? They didn't even put like a box at the bottom to help the community understand like what that means. It needs to be done. It needs to be done. We need to start over, and we need to figure out and be innovative, and we need to be creative, and we need to move forward and get rid of some of this old baggage. And again, it is true. There is legislation out there that has been submitted to law to remove Councilmember Hackett and Councilmember Owens off of this committee. So that is true. It has been submitted.
Councilmember McCoy.
Yes. First, I do like to say that I have no desire to remove
Please speak up
people
a little
from,
louder,
from
Councilmember
committees.
McCoy.
That's one. Second, can you hear me?
Just a
I
little
said,
louder.
The second,
Or
the other thing
WITN,
was,
put the volume up, please.
Hello? You could adjust my volume?
I want WITN to either adjust it, or if you can just speak up a little louder, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I said, so the other thing was, it was about the land bank. Now, like I stated, I definitely understand. And when it comes to the land bank and the 2 boards, and you're correct, I have always tried to figure out what was going on with the other board. Initially, when I was looking at the boards, there was a technical board and a governing board. The board that we are allowed to see is the one that's on the website or whatever. That is one board, but the one where you didn't see the people, whatever, those people were more so initially at the time that I was really looking at what was going on. As soon as I came in, it was more people who were in part of the finance arena. So, like I stated, I can state frankly that we dropped the ball when it came to oversight. I can state it frankly. I said, because I know that there was definitely people who were supposed to be at those meetings that were not. If Maria got to those meetings, that was good, but she was not. We was counting, I guess, on her to be able to bring that information back because nobody else was going to attend those meetings. We're in a different term now. She was going. Where our finance chair, I believe, is now going. I'm not certain who else actually is supposed to be on there is going. And Councilwoman Darby has brought it to our attention and highlighted it several times about everything that's actually happening with the land bank. Like I stated, I support all about accountability and making certain we know about what's happening. But if we do this, we cannot try to do this. How I want to put this. To me, it's almost like the replace and repeal type situation. Repeal and replace. So it's like if we have not figured out what we're going to do, we would basically be dead in the water for a while trying to figure out what the next step is. So I think it'd be better to fix it than to end it. That's basically, to me, is a tool to deal with vacancy. And you're right, Councilman Owens. I do believe that is definitely it's an issue. If your houses are being sold for almost double than what mine is, but it may be a reflection more about the market and where that house is located rather than where the homes here are located. So I'm not certain whether or not that's the case or not. But as I stated, I see some differences. Matter of fact, I'm ready for them to start doing more. They have concentrated a large amount of time on the Hilltop community, on 2nd and 3rd Streets, Pleasant and all of that, Conrad maybe as well. But I'm so ready to start seeing this start moving closer to my area so I can see the transformation that I've seen in other places. So I just wanted to make sure. And also, as I stated before, I don't have an issue with you being on this board. So
Thank you. Councilmember Field will be speaking next. I do want to point out that this audit that you brought here, this is an old audit because we do have the new audit, which everything passed with flying colors. So this is the old audit.
Point of order, I didn't bring it.
The 2024 audit.
She brought it, I didn't bring it.
Okay,
Point of order.
this is,
Point of order.
excuse me,
Point of order.
Use the gavel for yourself.
There's a point of order.
I'm speaking and I'm being interrupted.
No, I was point of order.
Okay.
That I brought it. I didn't
Okay.
bring it.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry. I didn't say that you brought it. No, you said you brought up the audit, that it was
You said
current.
that I brought the audit, so I was just making sure. I didn't
Point
bring
of
it.
order.
The current audit is on, excuse me, point of order. The current audit is online.
And that is the audit that I printed out and put at each of your chairs when I arrived this evening so that it could be part of this public record. Obviously, no one from the board or the land bank brought that audit.
Correct.
So just so that the community could hear that, because she wasn't by a speaker, a member of the public printed out the city's audit of the Wilmington Land Bank, something that we have been asking for the chair of this committee, who's removing me, for this and for this documentation multiple times. It took someone outside of this organization to have to bring this to us. That is sad. That is sad.
Councilmember Field?
I just want to say I've been listening closely to this constructive debate about the land bank, and I've heard some good points from all the different speakers. But I want to second the point just made by Councilwoman Yolanda McCoy, because I think she says this very effectively. And this is how I feel. Fix it rather than end it. And for that reason, I will not be supporting this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Field. And then we have Councilmember Owens, Hackett, and President Congo.
Yes. Again, I thank you, Councilman Field and Councilman McCoy, for your comments on that. And while I don't fully agree, I do truly respect both of you. From my understanding of this, because this is a city entity, the properties in the land bank right now would revert back to the city of Wilmington, and our Department of Real Estate and Housing would take over that operation again. So I don't believe there would be any dead in the water space right there. And this would actually be good for us to bring back in-house, why we create a system that is better working for all residents in all sides of town. I can guarantee you, I wish my market over my way was worth what they're trying to sell these houses for, but having spoken to these organizations, they're not trying to get affordable housing for residents here in the city of Wilmington. They're actually trying to market this in the Philadelphia market to try to attract professionals down here, and it has not been going well. It's caused more issues for my community in East Lawn, where a lot of residents are upset about this was a project done without their true consent on it. So again, it caused a lot of issues for residents, and this is why I've been so big on talking about this. Anyone who has heard me from the moment I got on here talking about these houses, it has created a huge barrier and hardship on the residents there. But then also, going back to this report, again, we have asked for documentation. It's been asked numerous times. We had the new executive director here. We asked for this paperwork. For someone to sit there and try to discredit this, which comes from a city document, and saying that we don't have the updated one. Well, we asked for it. I don't know what else to do at this point. If we're asking you for something, why can we not just receive it so that we can have the proper information, so we can have a true debate? And if the information has been changed, then maybe we don't have to have a debate. But again, this is what is wrong with the transparency with this organization. And again, this would not stop the work, but it would not stop the city from doing our job, and that's getting these houses back out there. It would just transfer it back over to our real estate and housing department, which I believe that they are capable of doing. I believe in our director, Bob Weir, to get that done.
Thank you, Councilman Hackett.
Yeah, I just have a question, and maybe this is, we come to these committees to have conversations, and maybe this can be another question to everybody, and, because I don't want to discredit the work that the land bank has done. I walked in the neighborhood and seen some of the great work that they have done. And, to be honest, when you do look at some of the properties today being sold at $350,000, $300,000, some of the land bank properties are at like $225,000, $220,000, which has been stated as affordable housing these days. So I just ask, do we dissolve the land bank and have to start all the way over when they are making good progress in our community? So you just try to figure out, that balance. When we look at the reports and we try to figure out how do we get things, that's one thing. But when you look in our community, there are some things that are being done with our land bank. So I just, I try to figure out, like, what are we trying to really accomplish here? And that looks like the transparency part. Being able to understand their books, because we did create the land bank. So trying to figure out, how they operate and how are these properties getting, divided up into the different organizations. Is there any minorities doing the development? Like, how are those things? So I think, our question is, we're just not getting any answers. And we have people from our council and, we have people from our city that sit on these boards, but there still isn't any answers for us to be able to feel comfortable and be able to go into our community and tell them what the land bank is doing. So I guess I'm just trying to figure out, do we dissolve it and it goes to real estate and housing, or do we figure out how do we, change the board, or how do we revamp? I don't know if that's possible. Maybe that's a question for the sponsor, but how do we look inside of the land bank and fix certain different things so that we can get what we need for our community?
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, did you want
No,
to?
yeah, no, I was going to say that when we're looking at the land bank, I think if we do keep the land bank, I think we need to start with actually finding someone who fits into the qualifications, who actually has a successful past of actually being on boards of affordable housing, right? I think we need to start with who's at the top, right? And then we really, I think we should have some committee meetings outside of this and some community meetings to really hone in on, like, how do we look at our land bank and what do we need to do to improve it and make it better? I think it has to be a real internal look, not posting some half done document online and think that's it and giving the bare minimum. That's not what my community deserves, and what is happening now, that's what the executive director has done. I think we need to start at the top and get rid of it, and then start looking at all the policies and procedures and updating them, and then being innovative and creative and, like, who sits on the board. We need to be more transparent, but that's not going to happen with the current person in place. I have asked already. I actually have a resolution, because what they do in other cities, when their land bank doesn't do the right thing, they write up a resolution as like a violation. So I already have 2 violations written up to the land bank, which is going to be presented probably I know we're about to go on break, but it's going to be presented soon because you guys did a half job at following what we asked you to do.
Councilmember President, did you want to follow up?
Yeah, I just want one
Okay.
follow-up.
All right.
And this is just a follow-up to give a suggestion. Is there a possible way that we do go back into our community and have a few town halls to be able to understand, what do our community want from the land bank? And then also look at it, is there a possible ordinance to figure out, are we able to select our own executive director, moving forward for the land bank? I think those are the more important, things instead of dissolving it. How do we find the right leadership, and how do we look at our community and make sure that they understand what the land bank does, they understand what they want from the land bank, and that's just my suggestion.
No, I agree. I definitely have other legislation that's focused more on reform because I know the 9 votes not happening with y'all.
Thank you, Council President Congo.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank the sponsor for bringing this to our attention. The land bank doesn't deserve to be fixed, and they don't want to be fixed. They have moved the way that they have moved over years now, and I think that is saying just that's who they are. And for us to not understand our power is very frustrating, and for us to keep giving grace when grace doesn't need to be given, because they have not done our community just the way they should have. They have done some great work, don't get me wrong, but the way that they have just turned their noses up to us, and the way that they have, just the way they moved. I mean, Councilmember Owens, Councilmember Darby, you guys said it perfectly, so I'm not going to repeat everything. I just don't think they deserve grace. We've tried, we have given them grace, and they have not responded gracefully. So I think it's just a disservice that we do to our community when we continue to let them slide and not hold them accountable. I think that I don't think that there can be any type of action except for dissolving the land bank, because they brought this upon themselves. We've tried. I'm on the board. I have intentionally disassociated myself from it because it's embarrassing, the things that they have done, the way that they have moved. So I just think that we have to start fresh. I think that we are bright minds here on council, and we can get it right. And we got it wrong. We have to admit that we got it wrong, and we can fix it by dissolving and starting new. And if we can't, like Councilmember Darby said, if we don't have the votes, we at least have to be strong enough to hold them accountable to some serious reform, just because our community deserves it. There have been so many complaints that all of us have heard about how the land bank has treated people from here who look like us and are from here, and just they just haven't been fair to them. So I would love for this to pass. I know it probably won't, but we have to figure out how we're going to use our power to best help our community through this whole land bank issue. It's embarrassing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Owens, and then Councilmember Hackett.
Yes. Also, just sitting here and listening to my council colleagues, Councilwoman McCoy raised a really good point about the council members who are assigned to this board and who shows up. So again, I am glad to hear that, Madam Chair, you show up to the board meetings of the land bank. So this question is directed towards you. Being an active board member of the land bank, since your position was added as a member of that board, how many times did you vote to approve funds to be going to an organization that did not have their financial paperwork correct?
And what organization would that be?
The Wilmington Land Bank, as stated by our own city auditor.
I'm not getting the question, because I'm on the board of the land bank.
Yes.
So you're saying how many times did I vote? Every time,
As a
because I vote
council
for the
person.
budget.
So you
I vote
voted
for the budget.
knowing, you voted to give them money knowing they were having financial issues?
They weren't having financial issues. The city
The
committed,
states-
when this legislation was written, the city committed $1.5 million. The city has never given the land bank $1.5 million per year. They were giving them $500,000, and that we had to battle to get. The only time we ever got $1 million was last year.
Right.
That was it.
And this report is from 2024, correct?
And the money that we have, we raise through
It's-
private, public
talking about
partnerships.
Public dollars, taxpayer dollars, This report's from 2024, so talking about last year, what you just stated, y'all gave them $1 million, correct?
Yes.
That's what you just stated on record. So you voted to support that, knowing that there was financial issues raised by our own city auditor, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you. I just want the public to know that because I have nothing else to do. I am being removed from this committee. I've asked these council members to talk to me, but yet they went behind closed doors, had a meeting to remove me, and instead of being quote-unquote senior legislators and coming to talk to me like a grown adult, they're asking to skip the committee process because I asked too many questions and go straight to the floor to vote. They have not answered my questions. They didn't answer my questions with the land bank. They didn't answer the questions on why they're removing me from this committee. So again, I just had to point that out. Councilman Johnson, Councilwoman Harley, Councilwoman Oliver, Councilwoman McCoy, and Councilwoman Cabrera had this meeting, and they have still not answered my questions on why. I am done.
Councilmember Owens, first of all, for the record, I have not voted, nor did I ask for you to be removed from this committee. So please stop saying what is not true.
Is there a
because you
public
have not
email
had a conversation with
asking
me
law?
about that. The conversation that was had was about the makeup of all the committees, not just this committee, and having too many members. And that's it. And I did not agree to anyone being removed from this committee. So please
Again,
stop
I have
stating something
asked
that is not true.
multiple times. There is
All
an
you did was
email
read
to
an
law.
email that was sent to law for advice. And this
An
meeting is
email
not about the
sent-
committee
let's read
makeup.
the email
This
then.
meeting right now,
Let's
we're
read the
on
email.
an item, and that's what we're discussing. The
Let's read
item
the
that's on
email.
the agenda.
Committee
Councilman
personnel
Owens,
change resolution to remove
Councilman
Councilman
Owens.
Hackett and
Councilman
Councilman
Owens.
Madam Chair, you're out of order.
Councilman Owens,
You
you're out
want
of
to
order because
remove
that
us
is not
from
the
this
topic
committee.
of this meeting.
You want to remove us from this committee. Again, that is, you just lied to the public. That is in an email to law.
Did I sign that email?
That is in an
No,
email
I was copied
from
on
law.
an email.
That
I
is
was not
in
signed.
an
I
email
did not
from
sign
law.
that.
Again,
Councilman Owens, we are going to continue on the legislation, but while we're on it,
Legislation.
Mr. Owens, did you,
it's Councilman Owens.
we're talking about Councilman Owens, while we were on the subject, you were invited to do a tour of the land bank, which you did not do, and in terms of
I gave dates
affordability,
to the executive director,
and
he
in
never
terms
got
of
back to me.
affordability,
I
those
asked
houses,
the executive director, let's go. I had dates.
you have not
He
reached
never
out.
responded, and then
have
he
not
texted
reached
me
out.
last night.
As far as the
Yes.
property that was sold for 300 or whatever the amount was in that first district, the land bank properties have to be sold according to the federal guidelines.
Yes.
So that it had to fit into that in order for it to be sold. Otherwise than that, they were not compliant. And those guidelines are set by the federal standards.
So if
there
that
any
is not within the federal standards, are you saying you are going to vote to hold them accountable?
Of course I would.
Okay, thank you.
Member Darby, do you have
No,
any? I'm sorry, Councilman. No, we have Councilman Hackett is next, and then public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Once again, thank you, Councilman Owens, for bringing that to light. But as we go back to the land bank, once again, I just want to state that the land bank is ours, it's the people's. So, when we talk about dissolving it because of other people and what they did, I mean, for me, I would think that we would come back with a better solution because at the end of the day, it's the people's land bank. Everything that they acquire, everything that they do is supposed to go back into our community and make it better. So I think there's an opportunity for us to go in and fix the land bank. And I'm just stay there. So.
Thank you. Okay, public comment now. Anybody who wants to speak in reference to the land bank? Excuse me, Brendan Fletcher had his hand up first, please. Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, Trippy, Mr. Congo, I'm addressing you because I think what you said is absolutely 100% right. They don't deserve grace because they haven't done shit for, or they haven't done what they should be doing for our community, okay? But according to people, you have no cojones. So what are you, like, to put your opinion if you have no cojones, right, Maria? So, what about Owens? You guys are deciding to put him out. Why? Because he actually
made that
speaks?
decision?
Because he speaks? Because he knows his stuff? And y'all don't want the truth uncovered?
Are you
from
speaking
y'all
to the land
crookedness?
bank? Are you speaking on the?
I'm speaking to you and your
Are you
corruption.
speaking to the land
I'm-
bank?
I'm speaking
Are you
about the
speaking
land
to the
bank and
legislation?
corruption. You're a
Okay,
part of
if
the
you're
land
not
bank,
speaking
right?
to the legislation,
You're a
then you
part
need to
of the
sit down
land
and let
bank,
someone
right?
else speak.
You're a part of the land bank, right?
Are you speaking to the
Are
legislation?
you a part of the land bank?
I am on the board of the land bank,
Okay,
as is
then.
President Congo.
And so
And if
so
there was
what? And I
issues with the
just
land
addressed
bank, then President Congo should have brought them up in the years that he's been serving.
Why? Because he has no cojones, right,
guess.
Maria? He has no cojones.
First, you have to show up to the meetings.
Maybe you need some cojones.
Baby, I grew them like my mother did.
No, you didn't, bitch. That's why you're
Listen.
Point of order.
You know
Point
what?
of order.
You need to leave this meeting. I need her out now. Now. She's speaking out of turn. No, you're not.
She really
You're out
do
of
have
here.
First Amendment rights, but
She has First Amendment rights. She's not going to come in here and call
but
names.
she can't call you a bitch.
No,
I
she
do agree
cannot.
with that, but she do have First Amendment
Yes,
rights.
she can.
Like, she does have freedom of speech. But that is wrong. She should not have said that. I agree with you. Because I don't want nobody calling me a bitch because I'm going to be cussing y'all out.
While the police are trying to put her out, I didn't prepare any comment, and I am speaking. I have a question about the land bank. Yeah.
Yeah, please state your name.
You know who I am.
State your name for the record. It's not about me knowing you. It's about your own public comment.
And
At a
Boogie
public
with the
meeting.
hoodie.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Could it be that your personal campaign contributions has something to do with the way that you vote with your House PACs, your campaign? You know, maybe I don't think
What
that
does this have to
I
do
don't think
with the
that you'll
land
have the
bank?
balls to answer that now. But I do have a question that Trippy, maybe you can get back to me. Who holds when someone is not following the law, or who holds them accountable? Who can I go to hold you, Maria, accountable?
Who? Tell me.
I'm asking.
Accountable for what?
Accountable
for what?
Can you let me know if you cannot respond now, later on, when council is out of order, out of line, when they need to
You
be
can
held
go file a
accountable?
complaint with the Attorney General's office,
The
or
Attorney
whomever you
General,
need to
thank
file a
you.
complaint with.
Yes.
Because you have no proof to be making the
How
to
much
be
did it
making the
cost for you to be a
accusations that you
sellout?
make, Miss.
How much did it cost for you to be a sellout? You should be ashamed. You're not the voice for Hispanic
Sweetie,
people.
I wish
You're
I
not
had
the
money to
voice
be a
of the
sellout,
people
but I
of
don't.
Wilmington. You're 100% a sellout. The
Right.
way that you sit
Yep.
there is the entitlement is disgusting. It's disgusting. And
else wants to speak in
you
reference to
want to
the
put
land bank?
Kobe out for why? So we'll make sure
You're
we
not
back
speaking
him
on the
too.
land bank, so you need
This
to
is all
please sit
about the
down.
land bank. He's trying to speak for us. That's our voice, and you want to remove him. And you want to remove, and you doing all of
No,
this
no
stuff.
proof, no proof of that.
Listen.
If you're not speaking to the legislation, please
How
sit
much
down.
does it cost to be a sellout? Is
Brandon,
what I
are
want to
you
know.
giving public comment
How much
to the
did it
land
cost
bank?
you?
Okay, all right. I'm here just to express support for the ordinance to dissolve the Wilmington Land Bank. Not too long ago, Bud Frill, Charles Frill, took me on a walk with the West Side Coalition to show me the land bank's work. And I asked him directly, how do you help first-time home buyers with special financing and creating pathways to actually help people acquire homes, renters acquire homes? And he told me there's nothing. That moment is like shocking. It's telling. And it showed me that the land bank was not meeting the real needs of Wilmington residents, of renters who want stable and affordable housing and pathways to homeownership. Dismantling the land bank, dissolving it, whatever you want to call it, is an opportunity to reset. We can build a land bank, a process in which it's transparent, it's accountable to the community, and is actually designed to get homes in the hands of Wilmington families and not just developers. And we also need to realize that homeownership is not the only solution. Many Wilmington residents are renters, and while the city's fix to property management and redevelopment, we also must protect the people currently living here. That's why rent stabilization is so critical. We can't let rents keep skyrocketing while we figure out long-term solutions. Without rent stabilization, we're setting up people to be displaced before they even get a chance to benefit from future homeownership programs. The land bank is corrupt. Bud Frill is corrupt. You know this. I'm asking you to just support this legislation. Thank you for introducing this bill, and I'm encouraging all of you to do it. Support it. Start something new. Look at what Baltimore's doing. Look at what other cities are doing. They're taking homes and their approaches to help people. I asked Bud Frill, I said, how are you helping people? There's no answer. People have to go through Stepping Stones Credit Union. They have to go through all these places to try to get the funds necessary to get a home. Not enough people know how to get access to these properties. They're intentionally hiding this, and I'm encouraging you to vote to support this dissolving of the land bank. They're corrupt. Please support it. Thank you.
Thank you. I will answer your question, though. Developers do not get these properties, and they do not. And the only developers getting them are the small minority businesses.
Stop, you know this.
And 85% of the people getting the properties are minority-owned businesses and contractors.
Right, but
And
you're not doing enough
And
to
you have
help
to live in the
people.
house for 5 years, because if you buy it to rent it out, you have to keep it for 5 years.
They need to change their model. There are people who are renting right now. There's cost burden. They're spending half of their incomes on rent when they could be paying a mortgage to own a home. How is the land bank helping transition people into this process? And Bud Furl's answer was nothing.
They refer them to first-time homebuyer programs.
No, they
That's
don't.
That's not what we do.
No, they don't.
The city has a
I've
first-time
tried.
homebuyer program.
I've tried. My mother has tried. So many people have tried. They don't do it.
Thank you.
They don't do it.
Thank you for your comments. I'll look into that, okay?
I personally think that this is a great idea, considering that three city council members here have denied a chance at affordable, stabilized housing for the most vulnerable communities here in Wilmington. I do think that the land bank is something that the city is owed and not private developers or unknown nonprofits. It is something that should be used to hold developers, local leaders, and people who actually care accountable to building and uplifting the community rather than continuing to sit on usable land throughout our great city. Considering that the land bank has received a lot of grants and has been in operation now for 10 years, do you know how long it will take to see this growth? I know that there's only been about 9 stabilized properties, so assuming about like 9 families have been helped. But also considering the document Councilmember Owens highlighted, I think that is more of a burden to the city than it is actually a benefit. And it seems as though some of the members of this council have their support misplaced. It seems they favor corruption over ordinance that help protect residents rather than support. And I'm in full support of this ordinance again, since this council has denied the city a chance to have stabilized rents for all vulnerable residents and households within the city of Wilmington. And since I have some more time, removing Councilmember Owens and Hackett would be a great disservice to the city. I see them everywhere. Even before they were elected, I personally don't see many council members outside of this building. I do not see many in the streets available to their community and their constituents like Councilmember Owen and Councilmember Hackett's do. And like I said, it's just a great disservice to this community if they're removed. So,
Can you state your name for the record, please? I'm sorry.
my name's Cheyenne McGowan.
Thank you. We got that here early now. You may come up.
My name is Maggie Messinger. I live in the 8th District. I was here last time to talk about the land bank. On April 23rd, that was, at one of these meetings, a resolution was presented that required Wilmington, the land bank, to hold a public hearing within 60 days of the adoption of the resolution. They wanted them to address matters including, but not limited to, how the Gibraltar Mansion was acquired by the land bank, the process involved in its transfer to the land bank, and how that aligned with the land bank's mission statement and strategic objectives. I won't go on with what else the resolution said, but they said, we want this hearing and we want you within 30 days to give us all this information. And what the land bank did instead was, with little notice, show up at the 8th District Highlands Community Association meeting, where the land bank does very little work, and rightly so, and allow the former mayor to present a fluffy piece complete with misleading photos and noting improvements he has made to the Gibraltar Mansion using city money, and the land bank is paying the bills. That was not a land bank meeting, public hearing that answered questions raised in this meeting. No mention of the over $3 million of taxpayer funds that have been spent to reward the developer who allowed the mansion to get in the shape it was in. No mention of the reason why the land bank was transferred to, Gibraltar was transferred to the land bank. No mention of what the plan is for Gibraltar. No mention of the nonprofit corporation the former mayor is attempting to form now to once again transfer ownership of a public asset to yet another entity. No mention of the contractor overseeing the renovations being the same contractor who proposed building a hotel there. And I guess the land bank had enough money that evening to also provide a shiny magazine with photos of some of their projects, but not one page about financials. Not one page in that shiny magazine had one piece of information about money and how it's being spent. So I brought that audit to you tonight to make sure that it doesn't escape anybody's scrutiny. It spells out in excruciating detail how the land bank has failed to maintain timely and accurate financial statements. Some are literally 3 years overdue. How reserves for lot losses cannot be validated. How the accounting environment lacks proficiency in job costing, capital improvement accounting, lot inventory management, establishing lot reserves, managing restricted funds, and nonprofit accounting. The financial management position has never been staffed by an individual who possesses a bachelor's degree in accounting. The director of finance and grants has no knowledge or understanding of the nature of balance sheet reserve accounts, nor did the accounting firm hired do a performance audit. I could go on, but the conclusion of the 2024 audit notes done by your own city auditor states that the land bank's financial reporting and all sorts of other reporting is not acceptable. So what better place to send $300,000 from the city, but to the land bank who writes all the checks? What better place to put that money? They can write checks for a project that's not being run by them, over which they have no authority.
I'm sorry, but you are at time. I did give you an extra minute, just, you know.
I wasn't aware there was a time limit, and I don't think others had it.
3 minutes.
So I'm
No,
gonna keep
everybody had it.
over
So I'll
which
give you,
they
you know,
have
10
no
seconds to wrap up.
authority
Yeah.
and about which they admit they know very little. The looming question about this is, who is continuing to authorize expenditures every single day there are workmen at Gibraltar? And under whose authority is that person operating? And if not the land bank, because they say they're not ordering that work to be done, who's ordering that work to be done? The land bank has been plagued with financial irregularities and mismanagement since 2019. And back then, when those irregularities were brought to light, they refused to comment. Today, the Land Bank Board has many of the same people who oversaw the 2022 abrupt resignation of the director who stole $28,000.
Maggie, your time is
Again,
up.
refusing to comment on what everyone else could see what was happening. He was later convicted after these irregularities were reported to the Division of Civil Rights and Public Trust.
Yeah, okay, the
For
time
several
is
years
up.
now, the Land Bank
The 3 minutes is
years
up.
now, the Land Bank has not published available property lists, has not published agenda and minutes of meetings, still doesn't, and has not provided financial reports. When asked repeatedly about this, they offer no excuse. For 3 years, there was a website page that said, check back later. We believe that the current financial and property inventory irregularities deserve another referral to the Attorney General's Office of Civil Rights and Public Trust. That should happen immediately. And we ask that the City Council find and provide answers as to who is directing the work being done on Gibraltar and under whose authority is that work being done. Thank you.
Thank you. State your name for the record.
Good afternoon, folks. My name is Antoinette Curry. I love you. Keep doing what you do. You hear me? I appreciate you. I appreciate you and everything that you shared, everything that you share. I met you when it was time to vote for you, and your energy or your appearance gave something more than what you are giving today or what you've been giving during these meetings. And I feel some type of way about that. I feel some type of way about this project with the land bank because I tried to get help. I'm like Brandon and his mom at 44 years old. I am technically disabled and I'm on a fixed income. And every time I've tried to get help with the land bank, because I actually had a conversation with you about it, I didn't get anywhere. Now we're here and we're in this place where you guys have gotten grace. I don't, because you're on the board, right? They've gotten grace to turn in information, to do things right, to share the information with the people. It's supposed to be a Wilmington thing. I'm a Wilmington resident. So how is it that I've had people who walked my neighborhood who were a part of the land banks, the small contracting people who buy the homes and fix them up, but I was advised that, we found the loophole to get around that whole staying in a house for 5 years before we rented thing. But people could come into my neighborhood. So Yolanda McCoy is my person. I live off of Lancaster Avenue in that area. And that's bothersome because they brought up to more areas and people are looking around for these houses. And some of the houses around where I live at, they're very beautiful, not for what they're charging. And people who don't live in a city, who live in a city, who rent, who want to get things and get help, we're not getting that. And then I've been listening, following this, of course, and how so many of the board members have put down the whole thing with the rent stabilization. And the one lady who was online, I'm so sorry for your inconvenience and what has happened with your landlord raising your rent 15%. And what is shown is that the people who, when y'all gung-ho, when y'all want these votes, y'all out here doing cartwheels and talking, kissing babies and shaking hands. But when we need you, and for our community, you're not showing up. It's okay. I'm cool with that. You're not showing up. And that's a problem. So the question was asked, so how do we hold y'all accountable? Who's being held accountable for this? Because we put y'all in these seats. And if that land bank is for us, then why is it really for us? So I need answers because you sit on a board and you know more than a lot of other people and you told me about it. So I just, you know what I'm saying? I need some help with some understanding with that because for me, it does not sit well with me. I am a mother. I have 5 children. Do you understand me? 5 children. There's nothing stopping my landlord from raising my rent and I have to be out on the street. I know somebody around the corner from me and she was an elderly lady. The rent went up on them on Lancaster, put her straight out, ain't care. But y'all are here, y'all supposed to work for us, and y'all, I'm confused. I need clarity. And the least y'all could do is give transparency because in transparency, you could get us to see at least some things. We ain't got to see everything, but at least make things knowledgeable for us so that we could feel comfortable in this transition. And ain't none of that happening. Everybody at we fighting? But y'all said that y'all needed us to get in here. But now there's F us that y'all in here and y'all living y'all life like this and then y'all come in here and then like today got nasty attitudes and everybody got something to say. That's weird to me. So I don't know how y'all gonna hold each other accountable, but we're gonna figure out something and I need y'all to do something too, but we're gonna figure out something. And we're gonna make it happen to hold y'all accountable. And if y'all not doing what y'all need to do, y'all not gonna be in here the next go round.
Any other comments on this legislation, specifically to the land bank?
Over the past several months, my name is Cheyenne Miller. Over the past several months, we've been working on a campaign for rent stabilization as we brought this issue up to different elected officials. One of the things they actually pointed to was the land bank as an alternative to rent stabilization. And often what they would say is that we need to increase the amount of affordable housing and that the land bank is operating in a space where they are increasing the amount of affordable housing that is on the market. And one of the things that we've been really concerned about is that that's not a good enough answer, right? Because a lot of people are not accessing those houses that are banked by the land bank. And our concern is that a lot of renters are unable to save up the money that's necessary to put a down payment on those houses. About 7 years ago, I bought my own house over in Little Italy. And it was an amazing experience for me, and I was super happy about it. But one of the things that upset me was that during my home buying process, I was unable to access the homes that were up on the land bank website. And I tried my best to be able to find a home that was in the downtown area, that's close to where I wanted to be. And every time I would call the land bank, they would say, you needed to have a bunch of money up front in order for you to get it. This was years ago before the land bank has, for some odd reason, hidden all the houses that they have, and you can't really look the way you used to. Back then, I had the ability to become a homeowner. I was lucky enough to have a good job. I was lucky enough to bring enough money in, and my rent had also increased. And so I was lucky enough to be able to transition out of being a renter to being a homeowner. But I wasn't able to do that through the land bank. That was 7 years ago. And now we continue to see that the land bank is inaccessible. The fact that you guys know that the land bank is inaccessible and are unwilling to vote to ensure that the land bank is dismantled and fixed shows that you guys have no interest in actually addressing this affordable housing issue. You voted no on rent stabilization, and now you're telling us to wait and let the land bank just work it all out when we see that there's no transparency and that things are not operating. It's very disappointing to continue to see that you guys are unwilling to address the issues with housing in the city, and then when your own alternative comes up, you're still unwilling to fix that. Maria, I hope that you will change your mind and that you will support dismantling the land bank and starting it over. It's not like the city is going to lose those homes. The city will regain those homes. It's not like those homes are going to disappear into the ether. We're still going to have the same vacant properties we all have with the little land bank sign on the front. And so I'm urging you to support this ordinance. I'm urging everyone to reconsider again, like, reconsider what you're doing right now. Like, the people are here to tell you that they want to see members of the committee like Shanae Darby, like Kobe Owens, like Alex Hackett, to stay on this committee. It's essential that you guys do not remove them. Maria, Yolanda, everybody, please make sure you do not remove these two from the committee.
They're not being removed.
Do not vote to remove these from the committee. Don't.
You may come up, state your name, please.
Hi, my name is Anna Viles, and I definitely support, given I knew the land bank was a little difficult. As Cheyenne shared, I too tried to access things. A lot of people who are experiencing homelessness have talked about trying to buy the property, invest in the community, and every time we went to the land bank, it kept saying, come back, the list will be there, and that was several years. So again, I want to reiterate, as many people have already said today, people need housing. And given the corruption that we've heard about today, we need solutions and we need them now. Rent stabilization was a solution that was not supported, and now we have many people who are continuing to be displaced because they cannot afford their rents. I also want to recognize that, Councilwoman Cabrera, you said that you're willing to talk to people. Prior to the vote of rent stabilization, I called your office and I left a message. Your administrator gave me your phone number. I left you a message. I sent you a text message. I sent you a voicemail. I never heard from you. So I tried very hard to have a conversation with you to discuss the research around rent stabilization, and none of those calls were responded to. So it is very challenging to sit here today to hear you say that you did the research and you talked to people when I made at least 4 attempts to have a conversation with you, and not one of those was returned. So if you're really sincere about having a conversation with people, I'm more than happy to have a conversation around rent stabilization. Thank you. And again, I support this ordinance to dismantle the land bank if it is not doing what it's supposed to do.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Bria Arthur, and I also want to share an experience with the land bank in 2018. Okay, so my first question is, I don't know how we selected these people, because it was an Italian guy from Cherry Hill, New Jersey that was showing me around, that was not even familiar with the city to begin with, couldn't care, was steering me to Trinity vicinity to a house that was chopped up, a mess. It wasn't what I wanted. I told him the block I wanted to target, which was 9th Street. He told me I had to buy the house at market. I couldn't pick it up. I couldn't actually fix it up. So it's just frustrating that you guys don't see that the land bank isn't doing what it's intended to do, and that you're hiring people who have no interest in this city, who aren't even from this city. People are hiring friends. I just don't get it. It just doesn't feel like you're here to do what's right for the citizens, and I'm tired of it. So that's it. It's not doing what it's supposed to do. Do what's right by the citizens.
Thank you. Okay. Please state your name for the record.
Anybody online?
is Sheila Arthur, and I'm Bria's mother. Mr. Hackett, you made mention that the land bank is our land bank. The people, no, I'm sure nobody in here feels that the land bank is our land bank because it's done nothing for us. But in terms of what my daughter just said, yes, she tried to get the 2 houses on 9th Street. They told her they were land bank houses. Oh no, they're not available or whatever. But these were the houses that she wanted. They said no, then they directed her to this house that we just walked out of. It wasn't a house that she was interested in, but this is what they wanted to give her, right? So then they said, well, come to this meeting. They gave her a list of houses that they wanted her to have, right? So we went around with this list. They were all in areas, this is about, she said 19, but it was 2019, but it was a while ago. These houses, some of these houses were just depleted, right? They were in areas where some of the houses at that time couldn't have even been selling for $100,000, right? Now, if you put $150,000 into a house that is in an area where they're selling for $70,000, $80,000, when do you build equity? Your grandchildren? I don't know. Some of the areas where they were offering these houses at were in areas where it would take generations, or at least 8 generations before you build equity. People want to build equity in their house, and they don't want it to happen 2 generations down the line, right? So we kind of gave up on that idea because we knew that she was not going to get the house in the area where she wanted it, right? So what the land bank is doing is they're divvying out houses where they want you to live. They're not going to give you houses in the areas where gentrification is happening. That's what it is. That's what it is. Where gentrification is happening, you're not going to get those houses. You're not going to get those houses on 9th Street. You're not going to get the houses in the area, in certain areas of the city. You won't get those houses. But you will get the houses that need $150,000 worth of work in an area where you will not readily get any equity in your house. We need more than that. We need a whole lot more than that because we have generations that coming behind us, and we want to leave something to our generations behind us, whether they're older like me or some of the younger people. We want to leave something for our children, and right now we're not doing that. Can't do that under the land bank.
20 seconds. Thank you. Thank you for your comment.
No one online? We good?
Is there anyone online, Mary Elena?
Two. Okay, and who?
Who else?
Oh, Lourdes.
Okay, we have 2 people online. We'll start with Christina and then Lourdes.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for an opportunity to speak. My name is Christina Kelly. I am speaking tonight solely in reference to the Wilmington City Charter and my confusion as to why sitting members of the Wilmington Land Bank Board are even engaging in conversation about any piece of legislation that may have to do with the land bank, as Section 2-341, the Code of Ethics prohibits you from doing so. So I just wanted to remind everybody that that does exist, that there is conflict of interest with any sitting member of the board voting one way or the other, and that, after the last set of unethical behavior, that we might not want to continue that. Thank you.
Thank you. Lourdes, if you're online, you may speak.
Hello, you can hear me?
Yes, we can. You can proceed. Please state your name for the record.
Yes, my name is Lourdes Rivera. I'm here, as you all know, in 2nd and Harrison. Like our district councilman mentioned, Councilman McCoy mentioned, yes, I have gotten benefit for most of my block has been repaired. And most of the houses did not go to low-income people. In fact, they went to people from even out of the state. So when I'm saying we should be a priority when we come to buy a house, I'm fortunate to own mine, but what I'm hearing about people that have bought these houses from out of the state, and I don't have to mention which one it is. And they give priority. And when I mentioned this question to Bob Freer, and his comment was, okay, we have to give them also the opportunity to buy these houses, but why? How come the residents of Wilmington are not having the priority? And we have heard this throughout the 9 to 9 that many people trying to buy houses within the city and they have been denied. So they're giving them the opportunity for out-stated people to come out and get in these houses. And if I was to go into the value of these houses have been sold in my own block, have gone over to the $200,000. None of the houses in my block have only one. If I'm not mistaken, 212 was under the 200, but most of the houses in my block went over the $200,000. So that's not low income. There's no way a person with low income and the way that they have in their income, whether senior, disability, or so on, there's no way people are going to be able to buy these houses if there's no way. If they're trying to reconstruct the land banking, my suggestion is let's start with the people that inside. Let's reconstruct those people and move them around. Do like the domino. Get them moved. Get them out. I don't think Bob Freer should be the one that should be in the street telling you, oh, yeah, you do this and that. And then when you go, then everything is different to what he said. He did around my block. He did went around my block. In fact, I was in one of the works. And it was so much thing that he said that did not take place. So we need the transparency. I believe that if we probably start over the land banking, and if not, my second suggestion would be move the people that are running land banking, get some new faces in, people that will be, I'm not saying everybody is. I don't want to be offensive, but we need transparency. We need this, whatever anyone asks you for something to any of you, that they are able to give it to us. There's pages that there's a land banking, but if the person is
10
sick,
seconds.
but then have someone that can take his place and answer us the question. This line go unanswered. So what are the people doing? We need transparency. So like Shanese and Owens and Hackett, we need something. We need to, as a people, as a community, we need to know where all this money is going exactly.
Thank you,
And
Lourdes. You're over
to
time.
me, it's going to the big corporation money. That's my opinion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jesus, online. You have 3 minutes, Jesus.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hey, so it's Jesus Morales. So I want to say so when Butterfield first came on board, I think, recently he did, but he had a meeting there 2 months ago. And I remember the last statement was about Trippy. And Trippy has said, I was part of the land bank, or I still am, but I remember him saying that he should have been left the land bank. And the reason he should have left is because they were shady and doing shady business. And you, Maria, as being part of the land bank as well, I'm sure you experienced those shadiness too. And he also said it's the same people just switching position, doing the same thing. So we voted all you guys there for a reason. And it's to fight for the people and hear the people and be, the backbone of the people. This is a no-brainer. I don't know why we have to go through all this. I mean, you guys know what's going on. We need some younger faces, some younger voices. Honestly, we need some more black and brown people in there. And I mean, it's the only reason and the only way to move forward. And that's pretty much it. I'm gonna keep it short.
Thank you, Jesus. Councilmember Darby, I return to you.
Yes, thank you all for your comments on this legislation tonight. This legislation is to dissolve the Wilmington Land Bank, as we heard tonight from the community. We heard from other council members and their thoughts on it. I think it's really important that, because it's not all the council members here tonight, but there's other council members who are in support of it, who are not in support of the land bank, who I think have a should have an opportunity to discuss this on the floor at one of the next city council meetings. But I think we heard enough about the land bank and its purpose and use, and I think as a city, as a council person sitting here representing the community, that we can be creative, innovative, and think about what our next steps are and how do we address affordable housing. I know that we voted down one piece of legislation around rent stabilization that would have helped people, but this is another opportunity for us, since that failed, unfortunately. This is another opportunity for us to do the right thing and to just be innovative and creative and think of different ways to really make sure that we're for the community. So I guess we'll do a vote. So I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. So at this time, can I get a motion to vote out of committee?
Motion to
Ordinance
release.
25026. It's been motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
It has been properly moved in second. We will go to a voice council member by council member. We'll start with President Congo.
Present.
Councilman Owens.
Yes.
Councilman Hackett.
Yes.
Council Member Darby.
Yes.
Council Member McCoy.
No.
Council Member Field.
No.
And I'm a no. That is 3 yeas, 3 noes, and 1 present.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd just like to make a point of order, please.
Yes.
I just wanted the people to be able to hear the way that you were going to vote. But per our council rules, ordinances don't need to be voted out of committee meetings. All we do is review them. So this will automatically be on our agenda.
Okay.
Nice try, though.
I'm sorry, point of order. This is Councilwoman McCoy. Per council rules, resolutions don't have to be voted out, but ordinances do still need to be voted out. And if you're changing your vote to vote it out, then that is fine.
All things move
But-
automatic, Councilmember Cabrera? Is that true, Elijah?
Take a look.
You taking it straight to the floor?
Okay, so that would then be on our July 3rd. That's our next committee
July
meeting.
3rd or July
3rd. Well,
10th?
July 10th, I'll be away for military obligations, so I won't be able to be here July 10th. So it will have to be July 3rd. And then also either July 3rd, July 10th, because I know a lot of people were talking about it tonight. That's when be the vote for the resolutions to either remove, like my committee, or they're removing me off stuff too. They're removing them off of stuff too. And they also, so that will hopefully July 3rd so I can be here, but they also don't want you guys to bring in signs and stuff. So they have legislation against that and other stuff. I'll be posting about it tomorrow. Thank you.
At this point, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
So moved.
Favor?
Second.
Aye. Okay, the meeting has been adjourned.
We didn't get a second. We didn't get a second.
We didn't get a second.
Second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, properly moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
We do it July 3rd.